Hi everybody, and welcome back to FANG Friday. This is Ross Healy, the Chairman of Strategic Analysis Corporation and a Senior Portfolio Manager at McNichol & Associates Asset Management. Well, everyone was on tenterhooks this past week waiting for the boss stock Nvidia to report. Well, report it did. But what the market is to make of it, I, for one, still don't know. I won't say that Nvidia laid an egg, because its numbers were pretty spectacular. But I can't say that the results tickled the market's fancy either, because the numbers were not spectacular enough. Nor did it seem to care for the increasing reliance on Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and Microsoft for its sales. Of course, the growth rate itself will get very hard to sustain, and strong year-over-year growth comparisons will become impossible to maintain. The bottom line, so far, is what I might call a big very expensive and perhaps unsustainably so. In other words, now we wait and see. The second thing is that the two U.S. market indices, the NASDAQ 100 and the Standard & Poor's 500, were very close to their historical upside maximums. Close, but no cigar as of yet. And the market has curiously not yet tested those respective breakpoints, even though they came within 3% of doing so. Indeed, if anything, the NASDAQ and the Standard & Poor's are kind of reminiscent of Nvidia, kind of a big look for increasingly bumpy markets. Finally, I was delighted to see the tremendous interest from viewers to attend the planned upcoming webinar about gold and gold investing, which will take place Friday, January the 10th, 2025. In this webinar, we will go over the fundamentals of gold and the science and mathematics of SVA, our proprietary methodology that underlies our precious metals investing approach, which we call black hole economics. So many of you commented good as gold and reserved your spots, but there are still more spots available, so do comment good as gold today if you haven't, and reserve your spot. Next week, we will be opening up full registration for the webinar for those who want to attend, and I will be providing you with instructions, so make sure to watch next week's FANG Friday. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a close look at what did happen this past week. As always, before I do that, I do like to say thanks to everyone who likes this video and all our subscribers. It really helps to grow our channel, and we appreciate it greatly. Well, we start off with Nvidia, which just came in with blockbuster numbers, but you wouldn't necessarily see that from what happened in the shares, which fundamentally just continued to hover right along their HB7 price, which is 63 times its book value. And actually today, after being on the positive side, it kind of slipped back below the waves. So, no marked enthusiasm, but no marked pessimism either. Amazon has, well, you can see what's happening here in the last few days. The stock has slipped back almost to its bubble price again. So if there's any AI enthusiasm which is bubbling out into the principal users of all those Nvidia chips, we're not necessarily seeing it here in Amazon. Nor, by the way, are we seeing it in Alphabet. Now, Alphabet, of course, has another issue kind of overhanging it, and that is to say, is there an impending breakup or not? But nonetheless, after moving beautifully right along, I could practically taste the bubble price. It has abruptly reversed course and headed lower again. So be careful right here. Eh? Microsoft just has been doing this for a long time, just been slowly coming in for a landing at its HB1 here. Hasn't got there yet, but it's getting close, and it's a little soft today as well. Finally, Meta, which also had been doing well, and I had thought, really had a good shot at reaching its HB1, given the trend of its earnings and its fair market value and its historical norms. But even that has been slipping back towards its bubble price as well. Apple, take a look at Apple. Eh? If I lay my ruler right along here, we have 6 months of virtually dead flat performance. A little bit either side, but virtually 6 months of dead flat performance. Makes you wonder what's going on here, eh? Now, Tesla has it did hit its HB3. That was 16 times book. Was setting back as I thought it ought to, but it's turned around and is heading right back up to its HB3 again. Well, I guess there is no power like Elon Musk to move this stock. We're close enough, however, that if you're going to do anything, you're going to have to wait for a breakout here. Finally, Netflix has been just soldiering beautifully right along. Excellent earnings outlook, and it's heading up to its HB3, which, as I showed you, is not necessarily the highest level that this stock could reach. And historically, it's been at least 1 and perhaps 2 breakpoints higher. So we're going to be watching Netflix very, very closely when it gets to its HB3. Now, in review, so far as you've seen it, it's been a mixed week. Nvidia had excellent numbers, but the shares did not do so as expected by the options market. That is to say, a jump or fall by $10 or more, but have merely rallied tepidly and then slipped marginally. Nvidia does not know which way to go, and waffling looks to be the immediate decision. Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta have all been a bit on the soft side, and all 4 look to be retreating back to structural support. I'm not sure what this says about the current state of the AI movement, but rampant optimism is clearly not the watchword right now. Hanging in there until the market can see what the actual business outcome of all that AI spending will probably be, maybe the answer. We've had a run-up on the initial burst of optimism, and now the market wants to see proof that there is some substance beneath that fluff. Apple, interestingly enough, keeps moving virtually dead sideways. I strongly suspect that we are seeing the results of a continued planned share buyback program. If so, here's something to think about. We are getting almost no growth in sales and earnings and no dividend to speak of. Is there a point where investors just decide that enough is enough and it's time to go elsewhere? Or can share buybacks hold up the price indefinitely? Does a point come when, like my own attitude towards the stock, when investors would rather be somewhere else? That leaves us with Tesla, which is looking like it is almost up at its HB3. That's 16 times book value for another shot at renewed glory, on nothing more than the coattails of a massive campaign contribution. I guess that constitutes one kind of corporate fundamental, but it is not one that I could ever subscribe to. I still dislike the shares. Finally, Netflix is rapidly closing in on its HB3 price, 16 times book, on strong earnings growth. Consensus growth expectations for the next 5 years are 26% compounded. So investors should have good reason for optimism. And as I showed you recently, that may not be all, market forces permitting, of course. Anyway, that's all for this week. For now, this has been Ross Healy, the chairman of Strategic Analysis Corporation and a senior portfolio manager at McNichol & Associates Asset Management, reminding you that nothing, including investing, is difficult if you have the right tools. I will see you next week.